Why belly up?
This is the game. It's cat and mouse.
Smoked a turkey.
He is down. He is freaking down. Said he shot an absolute giant.
Fall obsession, baby.
Welcome back, everybody, to another Fall Obsession podcast episode. I'm Sam with Fall Obsession. Joining me again this week, Mr. Nick Powell. What's up, buddy?
Still here.
Still here. And guys, we are, as we mentioned in last week's episode, first off, if you haven't listened to last week's podcast episode with our special guest, Tyler Carroll, I encourage you guys to go back and do that before you dive too far into this one, because this is a continuation of that conversation. We have Tyler Carroll with Dead Reckoning Collective.
Hey, everybody.
He's joining us today. The author himself is here in the flesh. So we are... I want to keep our conversation going while everything's fresh in our mind. I'll get into, plugs for our partners and everything at the end of the episode. But we talked last week about, we kind of started with coping mechanisms, sort of. Tyler, for those of you who, just kind of recap, you're a co-founder of Dead Reckoning Collective, a publishing company.
Yep, co-founder of Dead Reckoning Collective. It's a publishing company, independent publishing company, veteran-owned and operated. Right now, we are focused on veteran authors getting their story out. One of the phrases that we like to live by is to know where you are from where you've been. So it's usually about the transition. And also, it's like, are you the author to your story? Everybody has a story to tell, but are you going to be the author of it? That gives you a sense of control kind of within your life. And so that's what we kind of want to focus on. And then cleaning all that up that writing requires, and putting it out there to the world.
Absolutely, it's awesome. So last week we talked about, we let Tyler introduce himself. He kind of dove in and told us about Dead Reckoning and how that all came about. We talked a little bit about his background in the military, and then we're all firefighter paramedics. We all work for the same agency. So we talked about kind of how that relates to kind of the military lifestyle, and then coping mechanisms with like for Tyler, with being able to write and publish and do that kind of stuff, and for us hunting in the outdoors, how all that kind of mixes together and everything, and the discussion went from there. So again, if you guys haven't listened to that episode, it is a very good one to do before you get any farther into this week's episode. But for this week's topic, to keep things going, I wanted to dive into more of the lifestyle, the fire life, and then the family life, and then the business owner, entrepreneur life. Because for all of us sitting here at this table, they all mix together in their own ways, and it takes some juggling. It's not easy.
No.
And it can be difficult at times. So this is the episode the wives are probably going to want to listen to.
Well, that's exactly where I was gonna start. Is you got to have a good support system, starting with your wife right off the bat. Personally, I've been with my wife. In a couple months, it'll be literally half of our life. Like, we've been together since we were 15. So she knows me at my worst, and has stuck through it all. So I'm only the way I am right now because of her, good or bad. Oh, that's probably good. The bad's mostly on me, I'd say. But no, having a good support like that's where that's the foundation, and that's the wife for sure. I had kids prior to taking on the fire service or the business, one specifically, and now we've just had more and more and more. And
y'all have number 4 on the way, right?
Yeah, we find out the gender next week. She's halfway through, so we're and it's funny because talking to guys around the station now that just had their first and everything. One of them shows up to the parking lot at Lowe's because I was handing him off something, and I see his wife in the back seat with their newborn daughter in the the car seat, and I'm like just laughing because I'm like, I literally lost my third kid like an hour ago. Like, I'm like walking around the house like, where's she at? And she's like 8 months at the time, and I'm just walking around, and she just happened to be like underneath some toys, stuffed animals crawling around. I'm like, oh, there you are. All right. We just like walk off and just pretty much careless. So it's kind of funny once you have more kids and just that experiences. Yeah, I guess how protective you initially were down to how like, oh yeah, they'll be all right.
Right. Yeah, we have 2, and we definitely the second one definitely had it harder than the first one, I feel like, and in return she's a lot more difficult of a child than the first one. So
yeah, and that's what's crazy about kids is like when you have multiple ones, you start seeing the personality differences between them and how one may have been an easy baby and then now a crazy toddler, or a crazy baby now an easy toddler. And yeah, it's fun, it's awesome, and yeah, they're a huge motivation for everything I do, because yeah, you want to inspire them and take care of them, and as the father and the husband, you want to provide, and no man, they're so fun. I love it.
Yeah.
And another one is, we were talking about the due dates. Like I'm about to have my fourth, and like I know we find out the gender next week, but somebody was asking the due date, and I'm pretty sure it's June 29th. But I usually now just say the last week of June because I'm not exactly sure. Where like our first two, I was like, oh yeah, she's exactly 17 weeks right now, and she's due this day, and like I knew
17
everything.
17 weeks and 3 days.
Yeah.
4 hours.
Yep. Yeah, I knew everything. Now I'm like, yeah, I think it's summertime, I guess. Like it'll come when it comes.
That's funny. And to back up a little bit, my wife and I have a similar story. We've been together since we were 15. Got married right out of high school. Been married for 8 years now, I guess. Yeah. Going on 9, and we're on our second kid, and our due date is June 26th.
Oh,
so
wow.
like
we're
there, right there. Yeah, we're also finding out the gender next week, and so
yeah,
it's
we're all this is the perfect crowd for that then.
for sure. Yeah. So we're all in the same boat. I mean, we're not on level 4 yet, but
yeah, it's gonna be a lot. I was
don't
pretty.
think I'll ever get to level 4 either.
I was pretty like my first two are boys, and my third's is a girl, and she's like perfect. Maybe because she's a girl and I'm just like biased at this point, I don't know, but she really like slept through the night within the first month, like still pretty much sleeps through every night. Like if she whines, we immediately find out what the issue is, and like she's good, she's content being held, she's content being put down. Like she's just like, I've never been even frustrated with her really. And I'm like, why are we going to risk it with a fourth? Because our second one was a nightmare, like right off the bat. I know, yeah, and that was my plan was. But no, I'm excited. I really am. But hopefully they're easy.
So we'll circle back around is the term these days. It seems like We'll circle back around to the support system and how important that is with everything that we have going on. It's important in general, whether you're military or fire. If that's all you got going on, it's important to have that right there. Mm-hmm. But then you start piling on extra stuff like what we have, and it gets even more complicated. Because I'm pretty sure I'm speaking for everybody here. My wife would probably much rather me be home right now.
I know mine would. She actually told me.
Yeah.
Luckily, it's nap time, so things are a little calmed down right now for me.
But having somebody who is willing to recognize, one, the passion, and then two, the need for like dead reckoning or fall obsession, hunting, the outdoors, riding, those coping mechanisms, and the fact that is a part of keeping you grounded and keeping you in reality. Mm-hmm. Having somebody that is able to recognize that and able to allow you to do that, but have an appreciation for when you go and do your thing type deal.
Well, and you say allowing us to do this, and I don't think we're necessarily asking permission, but it's more of a respect thing that, I think we all have for our wives.
Yeah, exactly.
That, we want them to be okay with us being here. It's not like we want to just do it because we want to do it, which we do, but we want to do it because they support us being here as well. So
no, absolutely. I've always told my business partner and my wife knows this. If anything goes on within my family, like the business comes second. Yeah. And I know that's not maybe the best business mindset, but man, my wife and my kids are going to last a lot longer than the business. Yeah. Hopefully they last my lifetime, but they will for sure last my lifetime. So they are always going to be my priority. So, but we're talking about us leaving, and kind of related to the fire services, and this group right here, we've been with our wives for so long. So like they know us, like I said, kind of at our worst, and they've seen that this passion that we have for these things, like they want to be supportive of it because they know if we don't pursue that passion, what we would be like at the house, and we probably wouldn't be the best because we would be anxious about wanting to go out and write, go outdoors, go do all that stuff that is at our release that we talked about on last week's episode. But with our schedule, they're used to us being gone 1 out of every 3 days, and they're strong, independent women that they can handle a house with 3, almost 4 kids. They can handle the responsibilities that being a mother requires of them, and but at the same time, they're also strong enough to let us know and remind us, like, hey, no, I need you, and kind of put that foot down when necessary.
Yeah.
And again, with that respect that we have for them, I'm like, okay, roger that, and do that. And so I think it's a balance of having that, again, that right support system, and a wife who's understanding of the fire job and that schedule, and then the personalities that we have that brought us to that job.
Yeah.
That any other passion that we have outside of that, we're going to probably pursue with the same kind of intensity. So
Yeah.
it's
I know, talking about the schedule, and I know we mentioned in the last episode that the 24 on, 48 off.
hopefully 48-96.
Oh, well, I was going to say 24-48 gives us, time to do other stuff. 48-96 would give us even more time.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
Yes.
yeah, we won't get into administrative issues within our department.
No, every department.
Yeah,
Not just ours.
that's for true. I am for 48-96 personally. I know
Yep.
you guys aren't. But,
Yep.
Anyway, the schedule, it allows us to do more stuff, to have these side gigs, where if we worked 8 to 5 Monday through Friday, I wouldn't have as much time for fall obsession, nowhere
No.
near it. So it's beneficial of that. The wife also has ideas about, hey, I thought we should do this on your days off, and I have other ideas on what I want to do on my days off. So there's a balance there. There's a give and take. I know for me, because we got married after I've been hired on for like 3 or 4 months, I think, when we got married. So the schedule of me being gone a full day and a full night was rough.
Oh, yeah.
At first. She wasn't a huge fan. She got used to it, but then I know we all kind of had the same deal with our paramedic school, because we all got hired on before we were medics, and we got sent. And I know you went a year before Nick and I did.
Yep.
But when that was coming, she was like, "Oh, I think that'd be kind of cool. You be home for every night for dinner. It'd be kind of neat." And we were a week into paramedic school, and she was like, "When do you go back to work? I need the old schedule back." We got so much more done around the house with that old schedule. So
It's funny.
I know, I guess kind of where I'm going with that a little bit is, so many firefighters have side gigs, side businesses, and stuff. I love that mine is something that I'm passionate about. I don't love that I don't make really any money doing it yet. Hopefully that'll be down the road, and hopefully we're heading in that direction. But so many guys say it's the best job in the world, and it really is. It really is.
I agree.
It allows you to do something that you love, but then so much more outside of that too.
Anybody that ever asks me, man, how do you like it? It's the best job in the world, man.
I think that's the
Best
common
thing I ever
answer
did.
across the board, pretty much.
And I always wonder why that is the answer, because I'm like,
Yeah.
man, like,
I've heard that
is
so
it-
many
I
times.
hear it every time, and I'm like, and me just being defiant that I always am. I'm like, is it the best job in the world? And I try to question it, and I'm just like, no, it actually just is, because like I absolutely love going to work. I tell people all the time that there is yet to be. I'm on A shift. There's yet to be a C shift night that like I'm preparing for work where I'm dreading the next day, or like I'm like, man, I have to wake up at the time. I got to get there. All right. And like, I'm just going on with my normal routine. Like, it doesn't even faze me that I have to go to work the next day.
Yeah.
It's just part of my routine, where in the military, I was like, oh my gosh, I got more information. I got to deal with so-and-so. I got to deal with this. I got to deal with that. And so there's always this like lingering thing. Like, I don't want to go there.
Right.
And then within that about year time frame between the military and the fire service, I had a handful of jobs that like I dreaded going to at times, and it's just like, well, I have to provide, I have to make money, I have to do this, I have to do that, or I don't always look forward to that shift or whatever, but I'm never like hesitant about going, or never like not looking forward to it. And so like that right there shows you how good of a job it is. And then what I've always told other people, or what I've told other people about why it's so great, is like right now. I got off this morning. I worked an overtime shift yesterday. Within that 48 hours, we did with whatever we did, but I haven't thought about any of that since I've been off.
Yeah.
So as soon as we're off shift, like we're able to put that work day behind us. We don't have projects lingering over our head. We don't have deadlines that we have to meet eventually. Like, people talk about how stressful it is, and it can be very stressful in the moment. But when you're off, and you are allowed to pursue these other passions. You are able to spend time with your family if that's all you want to do. You're allowed to do absolutely nothing if you don't want to do it, you know?
Yeah.
Like, your off time is totally yours. And I think that that's also one of the biggest things that I love about the job is, like, you literally are allowed to do whatever you want when you're off, pretty much, as long as you're not wearing your department's stuff and making a fool of yourself, or breaking any rules, I guess, or laws.
T-shirt fireman out
And
there.
man, it's just awesome because we, like, doing what we do things that nobody gets to do.
Yeah.
And, like, just telling people, like, yeah, I drove a fire engine yesterday, and they're like, what? That is so, like, and they just think it's so cool, and which I think it's cool too. But, you know,
Man, it was like, it doesn't matter how long you do it. We're all big kids, is what we are.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you drive down the road with lights and sirens, man. You get all excited. I drove for half the shift last shift, and it was the first time I'd driven in probably a couple months. And it worked out that day for me to drive, and I got in there for the first call, and I was like, it was like all the way across our district too, so I got to drive all the way across the district, and I was like, oh my gosh,
Lights and sirens
this
is
is
fun,
so
man.
cool.
Yeah, no, lights and sirens is cool. And what's funny is, like, again, like, adults, like, when we do our station tours, like, a lot of people are like, I don't like them or whatever. I love giving our station tours.
Yeah.
For one, I like talking to kids and stuff, and they want to hop up in the rig or whatever. But then we have, like, as bad as it sounds, like, these husbands and wives, like, looking at us, and the wives are all like, oh my gosh, like, this is cool. And then the dads are like, man, like, how do you do this job? Like, what, like, what's this? And they start asking all about the rig and all the tools and like the lifestyle, and you can tell, like, they are a little jealous, you know. It's not like, I don't feel good that they're jealous by any means, but it's like, what do they do that they like? Why would they want what I have? And it's because it's cool. We are big kids, and we get to just play with bigger toys and have have fun doing it with our buddies. And, like, what else could you ask for to get paid good money?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And you talked about, you know, enjoying going to work, not dreading it. And part of that too is, I mean, your crew, with at least with our schedule, this is a family that you live a third of your life with, literally. So, I mean, yeah, you go home and you see family, you're with your family, but you also go to work, and even though you're at work, you're with your family, you know. And and I know we talked last episode a lot about brotherhood in different areas, but yeah, you can't. It's impossible to ignore the brotherhood at the fire station, in my opinion. You have you have to not love what you do to not enjoy that.
Well, I hope it stays, because it is, like, there's some things going on right now in the fire service that I hope don't ruin that.
There's a culture shift right now.
And we don't have to get too much into it, but it's like this job attracts certain people for a reason, and the cultures and the traditions are set for a reason, and it's because it's a high stressful job. A lot of emotions are involved, and you're with your family. Think about holidays with your actual family, how tense it can be at times, and what can be possibly said at the dinner table, you know, and how feelings could possibly be hurt. Well, the same thing happens at the fire station. When you're with them for that long, you have your best of times and your worst of times, and, you know, and so when somebody has a moment of weakness and may say something they may not want to or whatever, be man enough to approach them later on and hash it out like men through discussions, and let people know how they feel, and then you work past it, because that is a thing. It is a brotherhood. It is a family, and that's the way you work through an issue like that. But right now, there's some people do just see it as that job, as their career, and they're trying to make it like corporate America, and that's not a good thing, unfortunately. And like that's what makes this job so good, is because it is not that. So I'm really hoping that doesn't happen.
Same.
Well, and I think it's going to be a mindset of it's going to come down to our mindset, because we talk about this culture shift, and it's at least with our department and some surrounding departments, it seems like there's, you know, we're kind of at that transition point where there's a lot of the guys who have been there for 20, 30, 35 years are phasing out, retiring, and that in turn is bringing in an entirely new generation. And yes, there are difficult times. There are difficult growing pains with that change, the change in generation, basically. But then you think about there can be another culture shift if we establish. I mean, we're all at the point in our careers. We're still young in our careers as firemen, but we're at the point now where we are mentoring the new recruits that are coming in.
Yeah.
And if we can keep that tradition and keep that culture established and rooted, 10, 15 years from now, we're the officers and the drivers that are maintaining that and managing a crew, and everybody coming up under us are guys that we've worked with, that we've trained, that we have sought to instill that passion and that culture into. So,
Yeah, no, absolutely, and it's about fighting for that too.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's what ends up happening is some people are like, oh man, it's just not worth it, it's just not worth it right now, and it's like, what could be more worth it, than letting this become something it shouldn't be.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah,
So
just because there's a culture shift doesn't mean it has to be a negative culture shift.
Yeah.
If we,
Right.
because we are the next generation, we are the ones who are going to be the cause of whatever culture shift, whether it be negative or positive. So I think if we just keep our mindset the way I think it is right now with us, I think it'll be a positive thing.
Yeah, and sticking to it, because we're going to get pushback,
Right.
and they're going to get pushback from us, hopefully, so it's just about going about it the right way.
Yeah, and we say this is the greatest job in the world. Well, I think that's what we're fighting for.
Yeah,
So-
absolutely.
Exactly. It really is.
Yeah, but as far as like going back, I probably circling back again to like to the balance of it all. What exactly were you wanted to go with that? Because like as a business owner, as a firefighter, and as a family man, like I was saying on I think another podcast I was on, is like I personally have an issue of going all in with anything I do. Like I'm very passionate about being a husband and a father. Like I love my kids more than anything. And then it's like I love the fire service more than anything. And then I love Dead Reckoning more than anything.
Yeah.
And it's because I'm just a very passionate person about the things that I love,
Mm-hmm.
How do you go about juggling it then?
Man, it's hard.
Yeah.
Because I'm the same way. I love my job, and when I'm at my job, I'm all about my job. And then, especially if it's hunting season, I got a trip planned, and I'm like, all right, I'm so excited. I'm going to Montana. I'm all about Montana. Screw my job. I wanna hunt for a living.
Yep.
And I'm home and with my family, with my kids. And it's like,
I want to do this every day.
yeah, I want to do this. Wife, you go work.
Yeah, I know. That'd be great.
So, man, I didn't realize it was that funny.
That was good. I think we all agree on that.
But it's honestly, I'm probably not the best one to ask because I honestly don't feel like I juggle it very well at times. But
I think it comes down to, at least for me, it comes down to an internal battle of like we want to, like you said, we want to be good husbands, good fathers, but at the same time we want to do other things that we love as well. So it's kind of a selfless battle that we all have to fight and balance ourselves.
I know for me, and I struggle with it at times. My wife will be the first one to tell you, but when I'm at home, I need to be at home.
Yep,
you know,
exactly.
and that's where my mindset needs to be, and that's where we talk about juggling things, and that's where fall obsession is a can complicate things, because when I'm at home I need to be at home, but when I'm at home I'm not at work, so I need to work on fall obsession.
Yep.
And so I have to juggle it, and it results in, I get up early every single morning because my wife and kids sleep later, so I get up a couple hours before they do so I can work on stuff without having to worry about taking time away from them. And then I need to do my part, in spending time with them and doing stuff. And then, when I'm at work, I'm at work. And granted, if it's a Sunday, or we can all admit
Sundays.
it. If it's a Sunday,
Yeah,
or
if it's a Sunday.
or if it's
Don't lie. Nobody needs to lie right now.
or if it's after dinner or
Yeah.
anything like that, you might find me in the library working on fall obsession.
Same here.
I'm
I'm working.
Hey, we can be real. We're spending 24 hours at one place.
Yeah.
And the only time we're getting out is like going to the store or doing pre-plans or
Calls.
calls.
Yeah.
And so there's going to be some downtime.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
so-
And I mean, if you want to use your downtime productively, then
That's how I see it. I guess the juggling thing. I think what it boils down to is prioritizing things. It's like, okay, what maybe at the beginning of the day or week or whatever, that you understand what projects need to be done within fall session, because that's the one that's the most variable in my mind.
Yeah.
Like your wife, like our families and our job are as consistent as they can be. I know if I look at the calendar right now in 2027, I know exactly what days I'm working that year, unless I change shifts all of a sudden or somehow get promoted.
I was gonna say that's a ways out
yeah,
there.
yeah, but I know that's the day I'm working, and
Right.
I may not know what station, or if I'm on the engine or medic at that time. Who knows? So it's like there's not much variables within that because I know I'm there during that time.
Yeah.
And then on every off day, okay, now what do I do with that time? And me and my wife talk every day. It's like, okay, what's the plan for this day?
Yeah.
And so, like, as long as we both know, and it's through that communication that I
Yes.
let her know, like, this is what I have to get done, and like, I do it during nap time. I don't wake up early. I stay up late. I've always been a night owl. So after dinner, after bedtime, and everything, my wife and I used to always like stay up and watch movies together or TV shows and all that stuff. And that was like kind of our time together. So I don't want to ever lose that between us.
Right.
And so I'll like sit down. I'm like, I got one show. I'm like, what is it going to be? And then we'll spend 10 minutes just talking, 20 minutes talking or flipping through whatever. And then it's like, all right, we have to pick the show now or something because I have to go do this stuff. And so I do my stuff at night for Dead Reckoning or for school.
Yeah.
And because, again, the family comes first. And so, like, it's being very present whenever you're with your family. And if I know if I'm at least doing that, then I don't have much guilt outside of it. Now, where I have some guilt too at times is like on a slow day, especially at the station I'm at now, and it's like, well, all right, there's literally nothing to do. We've done training. I've got my workout in. There's nothing else on the schedule. Well, I guess I'm going to do some of my homework or start doing some of the business stuff, because, again, like if I have downtime and I see guys on their phones or guys maybe taking a nap because we don't know what's going to happen that evening, like whatever everybody else is doing, like that's their personal time, and I'm not judging them for whatever they do. So if I want to do something personal that benefits me, my family, the business, or my schooling, then I've learned to accept it more. I used to feel kind of guilty about it. I've learned to accept it.
Yeah.
But I think it's about being very present whenever you are with your family. I think that's where I kind of have that struggle as well.
Yeah. Circling back around to you mentioned communication.
Yeah.
And I want to elaborate more on that just because, like you said, that is huge. And when I'm at work, and telling her like yesterday with my wife, I told her, I was like, hey, here's all that I got to do. So I'm probably going to be spending some extra time working on this, working on fall obsession today than I normally would. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
She didn't like it, but I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's one of those days. And, those days I try to make them few and far between. But the communication is huge. And then also being supportive in stuff that she wants to go do.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a big one.
I know my wife likes to play volleyball, or there's stuff that she likes to do with some of her friends, or even just go down to her parents' house and do stuff down there with her mom. I mean, stuff like that. Then I tell my wife, I'm like, if you want to go do something, go do it. And if I'm off that day, then I will try to arrange my schedule accordingly. And like days like today where we're out here all day long, either recording podcasts or doing videos, I told her in advance, hey, this is the day we're going to be out here. We're going to be out here all day working on this stuff. I'm sorry, but it's got to get done. And just kind of rip that Band-Aid off.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Well,
what
yeah,
it is.
that's a big thing. It's like you can, you communicate that, hopefully knowing that she's going to accept it and understand. But also, what I try to do is like, is there anything that you need to do during this time?
Right.
And so like try to guide her to be like, hey, make sure you get this done while I'm doing this. And then what I know I try to do, and it sounds like you try to do the same, is like as soon as she has an idea of something that she wants, I'm like all about it. Like I'll drop almost anything where I'm like, she supports me in all that I do, and I'm a busy person, and I have a lot of other things that I'm interested in. And so like as soon as she's like, hey, I want to go to this workout at this time, I'm like, yep, I got the kids. Or hey, I need to go run these errands at this time. I'm like, yep, I got the kids. And so like I'll put everything else on hold to make sure that she does that. And so I think as long as it's reciprocal, where she knows that when she has an interest or something that she's wanting to do, then that's my leeway. Like, hey, like this is the team thing. I got your back, you got mine. Let's make this happen. But with that, I have also told her, because you mentioned making money and everything. Like, we've luckily been pretty successful this past year, but I've also kind of given her a timeline. I've said, give me 2 to 5 years, because that's kind of my vision with this company is. In 2 to 5 years, if it's not where I've envisioned it, then we'll readjust.
Yeah.
Because man, you can't just keep grinding in something and it never becomes something. So at some point, you kind of have to put maybe like a deadline on it, I guess.
Yeah.
And so then she has something set, like, okay, I'm giving you your time.
No, and I mean, that was the same way. Like, we went our own route with all of our hopes and dreams for 2020, and obviously 2020 was a crap year.
Yeah.
And there was so much stuff that I feel like hindered us in various ways with growth and stuff that we wanted to see, and then there were other things that just didn't pan out like we wanted. And so, like, at the beginning of this year, it was, all right, babe, I've told her, here's how we see this year going. Here's all the stuff we plan on implementing and hopefully get to this point. And this point will hopefully make it so that we can make money before too long off of this. Because, I mean, yes, it is a hobby. It's a coping mechanism. It is a passion. But at the same time,
at some point,
it has to be.
You got to provide.
Exactly. There has to be
in.
a benefit from it at some point when we're talking about it actually being a company. Now, I also have my arguments in that, hey, here's how much it would cost for me to hunt. I can hunt for this instead, since I have fall obsession, just because of the benefits that we and our staffers get from partnerships and stuff like that. So there are benefits, but I mean, we all know we put time into it, and time is money. So
it's something that has to eventually pay off, for sure. And they want it to, not just for financial reasons, but they want to see that you saw something through.
Yeah, exactly.
And my wife was wearing one of our hoodies, and like, I'll say, like, I'm not a skull person at all. So like, when we came up with our whole logo, like, it's kind of funny because it's not usually my style, and it's definitely not my wife's style. But she supports it, so she wears our hoodies and stuff. And she was just at a Costco a couple weeks ago here in Louisville, Texas, and some random person was like, "Hey, nice hoodie." And she immediately, like, came home and was like, guess what I just was told? And I'm like, what? And she's like, somebody recognized your hoodie, and I was like, got all excited for me. And so it's cool because she's bought into it a little bit as well, and that makes me feel good. And when I get excited, because we have some really big things coming, and like, she's always, it's funny because, like I said, we're high school sweethearts. She was like the prom queen, homecoming queen type thing. Like, she was Miss It, like, in high school, where I was just some dude for the most part. And she's like, I always just feel like I peaked in high school, and now you're the cool one. I'm like, that's not the case. I just keep doing weird things, and people find them interesting, I guess. And she's like, so I just feel like I'm living in your shadow. I'm like, that's not the case. Like, every idea I've ever had about Dead Reckoning, even Dead Reckoning itself, like, it goes through her.
Yeah.
Like, I filter every decision through her, and I soundboard terrible ideas from her. And she's like, you better not do that. And I'm like, why? And she tells me, and I'm like, I'm glad I said it to you first. So like, I try to include her in this as much, and unfortunately she devalues probably her. I think she doesn't understand how much I value her opinion, and I'm very lucky to have her.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's funny because my wife. One, it is rewarding whenever you see somebody that's not like one of our own guys, one of our own staffers wearing our shirts or one of our hats or something. And I mean, it's occurred before. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. Yeah. But then my wife, she told me not that long ago, she was like, can I buy some new T-shirts? All the T-shirts I have are either hunting or firefighter shirts. I need new T-shirts.
Yeah. Oh, I don't blame her. That's funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's just wearing camo or red, white, and blue everywhere.
I haven't even killed a deer yet. I'm like, well, we're trying to do that. Like, this last year, I took her, and she hunted a couple years ago, and then the last 2 seasons, she hadn't really hunted because she's either been pregnant or with a little kid. And,
yeah.
So this hunting season, she wasn't pregnant. So it was like, all right, well, let's try to get you your first deer. And so, like, I hunted first, and my first hunt of the year, just right out of the gate, 30 minutes in, I shot a deer. And that has never happened to me before. I've never shot a deer on my very first hunt of the year before. And so she sees that, and she's like, oh, this is going to be easy.
Oh, gosh.
So then she's out there, and we hunt we didn't hunt a whole lot this year at that particular place, but we hunt a few times with her, and every time, like, they would come out, but we could never, she bow hunts. I want her to kill one with a bow, and she wants to kill one with a bow. So they would always come in, but they would never be in her bow range, and she's always like, "This sucks. This is so hard. Why do you get Why do you get them to come, within 20 yards of you right off the gate, and I'm sitting here freezing and all this stuff?" I'm like, well, "This is part of it.
Yeah.
That's never happened before. This is part of it. This is what I like. I like sitting out here in a tree stand, whether I see something or not." So
No, yeah, that's when it's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my wife's not a hunter, and she never has hunted, but. Not to say she won't. She's gone with me a couple of times, but the place that we hunt is not very, like, you might not even see a deer, where we go. So to be successful is even less common, and so taking her is like, she's like, has this negative aspect on her. She's like, why do you go sit out there and you might not even see anything?
Oh yeah, it's like fishing or something too.
Exactly.
Where guys like get fascinated and love it, and they're like, you may not catch anything all day, and it's like, why would you go waste your time? It's like, because I get to go outside and get away from all the
I'm on the
BS.
I'm on the water.
And so trying to get her. I think if I could make her successful as well, that it would help. Help her understand why we do what we do.
Yeah, I guess like fishing, you could there's probably ways you could cheat around that, but hunting, I don't know if there really is. I guess get some of that feed that you guys have and just put a ton of it.
Hey, I killed a deer. The deer I killed was off of a Vapple feed, man. Come on.
Yeah, at least get her one though.
Yeah, I used all of Vapple on myself.
Yeah, that's why you made it so easy.
Not really, honey. Sorry.
Yeah. We're all out.
That's funny.
Well, man, I know we're kind of getting to our time for today for you.
Yeah, unfortunately.
I've really enjoyed these couple conversations that we've had and these episodes we dished out. As I've mentioned several times, not our traditional podcast, but man, it was good. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, this is a good one for sure.
We unpacked some good stuff for sure.
Yeah, so. And circling back around, we were talking about coping mechanisms, sometimes talking about stuff like this, life, and understanding that other people struggle with the same things that we do. It helps.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and that the fire service allows that. Hunting, I'm sure, allows that because you're sitting around forever, and if you're with somebody, you're able to talk it out. And if you're by yourself, then the mindset that you're in by yourself hunting, I guarantee you're in the same mindset that I am when I'm writing, is you are sorting through everything that you want to sort through.
A lot of time to think.
Yeah, you have a lot of time to think. And when you're writing and you're staring at a blank screen, when you're talking about not getting a deer on that hunt or whatever, there's times I'm sitting at the computer for hours and hours and I don't have a coherent sentence by the end of it. And I'm like, all right, well, I guess today was a wash. But it's like, no, I put in the hours and I saw what wasn't good on screen, and so it's a learning process. But to me, it's always like the old cliches. It's all about the journey, rather than the destination kind of thing.
Well, I know you mentioned kind of toward the beginning of our first episode that we did, that you're not really a big hunter at the time, and it's not because you don't want to, but
no, I'd love to.
But all is to say, we need to make an effort to get you in the woods with us.
Absolutely.
On a trip or two this upcoming season.
I think we talked about before about you guys doing like a series of teaching a brand new person how to hunt and all that, and like
teaching Tyler.
Yeah, I know, because I don't even my biggest hold up, like I didn't, not to get too personal or anything like that, but I didn't grow up with anybody who hunted or anything. Sure. It was just me, my mom, and my sister down in the Austin area. So like I wasn't exposed to it, and then in the military, I deployed, and so I got to have fun doing that. But then I come out and I'm around you guys all the time, and I'm like, yeah, I love to hunt, but it's like same thing. Like every time like hunting comes around, like wife's pregnant or something, and I got other obligations, and I'm just like, I can't. It's hard for me to convince my wife that, hey, I'm gonna be gone for a couple of days, literally to go sit out in the woods. As much as I know I would love it, it's hard for me to convince that. So I just haven't ever made it happen. But what's also been this kind of the fears being around people who know what they're doing, and then I'm like clueless. I don't know what gear to have. Like, I don't even know what to wear like that much. Like, I don't want to look like some fool. So I'm like, man, you kind of, people get hesitant just when they're not in their environment, you know. But I'd love to.
Man, you're the guy that we need, you know, because like there's so many anti-hunters out there, and you know, just within the hunting community, we try to pull people in and try and share, like, this is why we love it so much. And so somebody who's willing to go out there and give it a try, and so but never has before and didn't necessarily grow up doing it. Yeah, that's the kind of guy we need to show the ropes. You know?
But we'll hash some stuff out then.
And it brings us back to the basics too, because I mean, we're always inclined to, just because we're familiar with it, to take it to an advanced knowledge level with our content and stuff like that, and we forget to break it down for newer hunters and stuff like that. So it kind of brings us back to square one a little bit, and back to the foundation, which is always good. So
sweet, man. Yeah, but we'll hash that out sometime.
Yeah, well, this won't be your only time working with Fall Obsession.
That's right.
So.
Sounds good. Well, here's the collab.
All right, guys. Well, we appreciate everybody tuning into this podcast, whether you're coming from Fall Obsession or Dead Reckoning's platform and wanting to listen, or if you're a new listener just in general. Got a couple interesting episodes that it sounds like, if you're a new listener, you just dove in on, but we do have hunting content on our podcast.
I'm sure.
Episodes 1 through 48, and anything after this one, you guys can go check those out. So, but we really appreciate you guys tuning in. If you haven't already, hit that follow and subscribe button on whatever podcast app you listen to. That way you get notified every time we drop a new episode. We put a new episode out every single week. Fallobsession.com. It's where you can find all our content, our apparel, some gear that's soon coming to our store, and fallobsession.com/podcast. You can provide us some feedback or suggest any topics, and then follow our social media: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and also go check out Dead Reckoning Collective. I know you kind of gave a spiel last episode, Tyler, but
yeah, I'll do it again real quick. Our biggest platform is Instagram, and just at Dead Reckoning Collective. Facebook's the same thing. We don't really have a presence on YouTube, on Twitter. We have just started our presence on YouTube with the Dead Reckoning Collective. We just started a war and literature series where we talked about war and literature with 4 authors that we really want to get out there. So same thing, like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff to get it out to the world. And the website is deadreckoningco.com, where you can find all the books that we've published. Some of the merch just help fund any of those projects. That would be greatly appreciated.
Nick, you got anything else, man?
That's all I got. This is a good one.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I almost forgot, but we are out here at Cinnamon Creek today, and real quick, huge shout out to them for letting us use their facilities up here at the event center to record this episode. So guys, go check out Cinnamon Creek Ranch here in North Texas as well, if you haven't already. So, well, gentlemen, thank you very much. These were a good couple of weeks episodes, and I hope our listeners enjoy. Thanks for coming on, Tyler. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
All right, guys, we will catch you all again next week, returning to the topic of hunting for our Fall Obsession podcast. We'll catch you later.
See you later.
Thank you.